When you buy a sustained spray squib from Squib FX, this is what you're gonna get in your kit. You're gonna get the sustained spray squib, which holds up to 12 ounces of blood. You're gonna get a holster, which holds the squib to the body of the performer. You're gonna get some tubing with a couple of different spray nozzles that help to shape the blood as it sprays out of the squib. You'll get some compressed CO2 cylinders to propel the blood through the tubing. You'll get a trigger to activate the squib. You get blood in a syringe to put the blood into the reservoir of the squib. You'll get a chest strap to help cinch all of this down to the body of the performer and help hide it. And you'll get a set of instructions that explain how to use the squib. The basic principle behind a sustained spray squib from Squib FX is to create a sustained spray of blood over the course of a duration of time, rather than an instantaneous burst of blood that you would get from a typical squib. This would be useful in the circumstance of a heavy bloodletting, such as a gunshot wound that continued to seep, or a neck slice that you want to spray blood into the air, or sword slashes, knife wounds, those kind of things where you're trying to deliver blood over a period of time rather than instantaneously from the impact of a gunshot wound. The way that the squib works is that this reservoir holds up to 12 ounces of blood, which you inject in through this barbed fitting with the syringe. And as you fill it, this transparent back allows you to see the blood fill so you know how much is in there. Once it's full, you're gonna connect a piece of tubing to it, which is either gonna have nothing on the end or one of these spray nozzles that will help to shape the blood as it sprays out. We use a compressed CO2 cylinder screwed into this regulator, which allows blood to be pushed into the reservoir, creating a pocket of air at the top that pushes the blood down and out through the tubing. This adjustable regulator allows you to set the PSI between 5-15 PSI, depending on how quickly you want to deliver that blood, and cover everybody in the room with blood. When operating your sustained spray squib, the first thing we want to do is a system test to make sure that the squib is operating normally and that there are not going to be any surprises when we go to use it for real. There are two primary systems with this squib. There is an electrical system and there is a pneumatic system. So we'll test the electrical system first, which is comprised mostly of a solenoid inside of here that, when electrically activated, allows the air to flow out of the regulator into the reservoir and push the blood out. So to test if the solenoid is working, we're going to take the trigger, which comes with the squib, and it has a mini XLR connector and a momentary contact switch. And we'll take the XLR connector from the end of this and insert it into the XLR connector on the squib body. And you'll hear a small click when it's inserted all the way. And then on the top of here is a power button. When you press the power button, it should turn on blue. That way you know that there's power going to the squib. Now what I'm listening for is a small click inside of this pneumatic casing that tells me that the solenoid is operating normally. That's what you should hear, a click. I press it, it clicks. If you do not hear that click, it's either because this XLR connector is not fully inserted, or the power button is not turned on, or it could be that you need to replace this 9-volt inside of this housing. The next thing that we'll test is the pneumatic system, which is very simple. We're going to take a threaded CO2 cylinder, screw it into the bottom of this regulator. You want to make sure that you screw it all the way on. And then as I start to turn this regulator clockwise, I will see the indicator on the regulator go up. Now what I should hear whenever I press this is not just the click of the solenoid inside of it, but I should also hear air flowing into the reservoir and out through the barbed fitting. And I can hear that. Another way to test it is to put your finger over the barbed fitting. You don't want to leave it here for too long or you risk rupturing this because the air has nowhere to go. But if I press it, I'll feel pressure build up here. And if I let go with my finger, I'll hear a little puff of air come out of there. Now I know the air is working, I know the solenoid is working. Before I go to actually load it, I'm going to turn it off, take the trigger out of here by pressing this little black button down and pulling. And you can just leave the air on there, that's fine. Once you have performed a system test on the sustained spray squib, the next step is to determine the position of all the rigging. By the rigging, what I'm talking about is primarily two pieces: the position of the squib body on the performer and the position of the spray nozzle. you want to determine the position of the spray nozzle first, because this is the business end where the blood is going to be spraying out of, and you want to determine where is that wound happening and what do you want it to look like. You can either attach the end of the spray nozzle to the costuming or directly to the actor. If you're going to attach it to the costuming, you want to apply some type of fastener to the outside of this. It could be Velcro or snaps. You could sew a little pocket into the costume. You can even pin it. But you want to make sure that the tubing is traveling under the costume to the position where it's going to be. If it's going to be coming through the costume, then you want to position it to that space and then create a little hole so the blood can spray through. A lot of times what I will do is run it right up to the edge of the costume, right where it meets the skin, so that it's able to spray out with no impediment in regards to trying to push past the costume. You can't see it. If it is gonna poke up a little bit and you're worried about that, you can paint the end of the spray nozzle. You can paint it a flesh tone that matches the ethnicity of your performer, or you can paint it black or the color of the costume, or you can even position it so that it's gonna be on the off-camera side of the body, so that as it sprays up, you don't have to worry about seeing the end of the nozzle. If you're gonna attach it to the actor, you can either run it under the costume and tape it onto them, using medical tape or gaffer's tape, or you can glue it on with like a silicone adhesive or Prozade or something along those lines. Wherever that position is of the spray nozzle is ultimately going to determine where the other end of this tubing lands, so that you know where the squib body needs to be positioned on the actor. It's going to be informed by where the spray nozzle wants to be. So we send this holster. It's just a Velcro brace that goes on, and what you have is hook Velcro across the whole back of this, and on the back of this rig you have the loop, and it just holds on like so, and you position that wherever on the actor that the other end of this tubing is going to be positioned, and then you are going to fill the reservoir with blood. Once the position of the squib rigging has been established, you can take the rig back off of the performer, and now we're going to fill it with blood. So the idea here is that we're going to fill this reservoir up with stage blood. The stage blood has been thinned to about 80% water to 20% stage blood, roughly the viscosity of milk or half and half. You're going to set the rig on a 45-degree angle so that as the fluid fills up inside of here, the air is coming out of its highest point here. I will use like a box or something to lean this against, just so it can maintain that orientation. The syringe that we send with these sustained spray rigs is like any 60cc syringe, except that we've added this piece of latex tubing onto it so that you can drop that down into here and air can come out as you're pressing the blood in. So I'm just going to fill up this syringe with some sage blood here. And I will usually use like a rag or something just to keep that nice and dry so it's not dripping sage blood everywhere. Put it down in the rig and inject the blood into the squib. And because the back of this squib is transparent, you can start to see the blood filling the squib. Just do it one at a time. And like I said, it holds about 12 ounces of stage blood. So you can see the level line here. You can see it sloshing around inside of there. Great, so the rig is very full, and once it has reached that point, then you can press the tubing onto the barb fitting. And then once, you want to make sure that the spray nozzle is higher than the squib, and this is ready to fire. Now that the squib body is full of blood, make sure that the spray nozzle stays higher than the squib body so that it doesn't start prematurely leaking out of the end of this thing. You want to place the rig body and the spray nozzle back into the predetermined position on the actor, and have fun getting bloody.
That was good.